to SheerEdge Training live chat for today. Welcome to everyone joining us on Facebook Live and via Zoom. Hope you've all had a great bank holiday weekend. This week's live chat, we're delighted to have with us today Emma Cartmell, who's CEO of CHS Group. Welcome, Emma. Thanks so much for joining us. Did you have a good bank holiday weekend?
It was lovely, thanks. Yes, yeah. The weather's helped. It's been a lovely weekend.
It has. Also wanted to just welcome here Karen Edwards, who will be monitoring questions that you guys might have throughout the chat. And of course, Gino Spolverino, who is working tirelessly in the background, pulling all of the technical and moderating all the chats. So please feel free, anyone, to pop on any questions that you have to ask Emma at the end, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. So Emma, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got where you are today?
Yes, quite a big question. So I started out my early career actually not doing anything at all to do with events. Worked for the old electric board quite some time ago. Then ran an event management agency for almost 10 years. And then the opportunity came along to actually take over an existing show, which back then was called the Big Wow Show in Leeds. And it was owned by the venue that it was held in, and they came to me and said, you know, we're not going to do this anymore, but it's not doesn't fit in with what they want to do. But it'd be a shame for the city to lose, because it was just a sort of citywide event back then. It'd be a shame for the city to lose it. And would we like to take it over? So that was 11 years ago now, just over 11 years ago. And I built the show then. It was, I think, our first year. We were at the Royal Armouries, and we had about 30 exhibitors, something like that, and just about 150, 200 people kind of through the door. And every year it's grown since then. It's not just grown in terms of size of exhibitors and kind of floor space, but also in terms of the people attending, the buyers attending, but also that geographically it's now truly a national show, and it's spread out geographically in terms of the exhibitors. So we have a London and South East, Scotland, and all different parts of the UK. So yeah, so we had to celebrate our 10th anniversary last year, and in that year also launched a sister show in Birmingham, which takes place in October.
Amazing, really excited.
Yeah.
And congratulations as well for being shortlisted as well for Best UK Trade Show, less than 2,000 square metres. So congratulations for
thank you. That was
that's
good.
Amazing to hear that. So definitely for people that are, you know, thinking of running the events and things like that, it's great to aspire to what you've achieved, you know, in that space of time. It's really great accolade, really. So congratulations for that. How do you work with event professionals?
So I guess we're kind of a matchmaking organisation. So we have our exhibitors are all hotels, venues, event suppliers. So anybody really sort of that sells within the event space, if you like. Yeah. And then in terms of event professionals, I can see some of them on both sides actually on the Zoom call, is they come to our events for various different reasons. And some of them we have the two main exhibitions, but we also have some smaller venue road shows and some of the things coming up in the future as well. But so they come predominantly to meet the supply chain, so to discover new venues, perhaps meet with people, even if they already know them. I know, for some people when they're ringing a hotel, particularly bigger ones, and they might, not have that same one-to-one contact the whole time, to actually come to a show and meet people, and I think we're all realising now in terms of how much we're missing each other, just how much, we all want to kind of get into a room together and actually, meet and do business. Yeah. But then also for the bigger shows, you've got the seminar program, and you've got all the things that happen all around it, sort of the hosted by party and welcome party and all that kind of thing. So there's lots of small events that happen around the big event, if you like, and all culminating in the one day.
Amazing. I've attended over a number of years, and you know, every year you just outdo yourselves. It's brilliant. It is great, and
I think,
I've also been to your road shows as well.
yeah, I think the
Personally,
reason
found them
what
brilliant.
makes us perhaps a little bit different is you've got the actual event that is more intimate than a lot of the big shows. So, you know, regardless of the floor space, it has got that intimate, friendly feel to it. I don't know if part of it is it's still predominantly kind of northern show, and you've got that kind of northern welcome, if you like, that Yorkshire welcome. But also from the operational perspective, certainly in the early days, because I had an event management background, so mainly conference organising, when I set the business up on my own and then started to bring in people that I knew to work with me, we were all conference organisers. So we approach an exhibition from a conference perspective. So it's not as kind of, you know, that we don't, not that anyone purely thinks about kind of the operational elements, but I think we come from it from that customer experience. We come from it from the perspective of what goes around a conference. Yeah. And I think that those early days of doing that, and we worked, even now, Julie Phillips, who is our Chief Operating Officer, you know, she used to work on some great events in terms of from gaming and tech and things like that. So it's kind of got all those different elements to it, as opposed to us all coming from that exhibition background.
That's nice though, isn't it? I think that mixes it up a little bit, and like you say, it gives it that added value touch to it. So tell us a little bit more about the new initiatives and projects you've been working on recently.
Yeah, so without kind of going too much into the whole, you know, the COVID-19 dreaded word, we recognise that, you know, things are going to change. I think I don't believe that we'll never get back to where we were. I absolutely believe that as humans we want to connect, and even though Zoom has got, and all the other different platforms has got us through this time, and I think some people, I run a remote team, so we've always relied on Zoom, so that element of working from home has not been different for us. But I think in that interim period, hotel budgets will change. Hotel availability will change, because as most hotels have been very flexible in supporting the industry and allowing people to move their events, you've then got a whole season where it's not new business, it's this year's business that's taking place. So it's, you know, and all venues at different stages of coming back. Some venues never went away, you know, their salespeople were still active, they were open to some degrees for key workers, still very active in terms of the community. Other venues are sadly closed for the time being with the workforce furloughed. So everyone's at that kind of different stage of, and I do believe that the stage you're at now will probably determine the stage that you know, if you never left, I think you'll come back quicker, because you've still, you know, you're not, you know, the whole, what will be different is the buyers will be different. You know, sadly, they might be, you know, working different ways or going into different industries altogether. So the whole landscape will change. So we are moving more into sort of the bespoke activities that we do for people and more lead generation. So we're looking at sort of doing things like that at the moment, so that we haven't just got the big events, because, you know, we have still got a lot of uncertainty, and we, you know, we want to make sure that we can help hotels and venues and suppliers really max out their budgets and do what's best for them, as opposed to them being able to, you know, and some, I know, having spoken to some people, that budgets aren't necessarily changing, but I don't think people will do quite as much as they used to in the past. So we've got to make sure that we get close to customers and do what we can for them.
Yeah, absolutely. What, in your opinion, what would you say has been the most challenging part of COVID-19 for the events industry in general?
I think at the moment,
a sweeping statement, but it's
I think at the moment it's the, well, there's a few things. I think there's uncertainty is definitely a big part of it, in that we just don't know, you know. There's certainly people like the BVEP and the AEO are pushing and are lobbying government to distinguish mass gatherings to organised events. You know, in what we do, we know whoever, you know, we know everybody who comes to the door. We can, you know, there's certain things that we can do. So if you're safe to fly, there could, you know, with social distancing, there's an argument to say therefore you're safe to go to an event. But that uncertainty, I think, is causing problems. I think for venues, it's that challenge of the availability that they have and matching that with the needs that are out there. So one thing we've been doing is getting really much kind of closer to our buyer community in terms of understanding what what they're working on, what challenges they've got, so we can match up people who've got inquiries for December with people who've got availability in December, as opposed to just matching up people who book events with people who have space, if you know what I mean. So being a little bit more, or rather a lot more tight on that. And I know, and I'm not a venue finder, and I never have been a venue finder, but I do know in terms of from the industry, there's been a lot of talk around the commission structure. And I think what we're really finding now is that essentially a lot of venue finders, sadly, are commission only workers. And I do think that we could do with a shift in terms of people recognising the value that they bring and charging for their services in some way, maybe, and just getting closer and offering more service. But I think that's what's sad, is that when you've got a lot of independent venue finders who are struggling now, and as I've been speaking to people, I've been trying to sort of encourage them to think of other ways in which they can be of service to their client base, other than just taking commission only work. So I think that's going to be, there's a lot of people who feel that they've been very much left behind in this, and we're still yet to hear. We are lobbying, because I also sit on the board of the AEO, Association of Event Organisers. There's certainly a lot of lobbying going on behind the scenes around additional support for the hospitality industry. And I noticed something today that London and Partners have announced the extension of their growth programme, accelerator programme. I didn't read it in detail, I'll be honest. So I hope that there'll be a lot more support. But certainly I also think that the leisure side, for hotels, I think that's going to come back really quickly. I think we're all desperate to get away, do something, go to a restaurant. I'm kind of more worried that will I get in somewhere now? Am I going to be able to book a table in a restaurant if we've got reduced capacity? So I do believe that there'll be people who remain fearful or remain vulnerable, so cannot travel. But for every person who worries, I think there'll be more who just kind of like, get me on that plane, or get me.
Definitely. I mean, you've touched on it in terms of the venue find side of things. I mean, the tricky part is, as you say, September, October, November is busy time at venues, and ultimately that's when people are moving things. And I guess it's just trying to work together to get, a good all-round win-win for everyone. And I think that's what, for me personally, that's what I want to see more.
And I think by and large,
with each other.
I mean, I think it's kind of, it's almost like, there are losses somewhere. And venues, by and large, I think have been amazing, generally, at letting people move over their event dates. And there are some stories to the contrary, but I think the majority that has been the case. But again, it's kind of, well, okay, so the venue finders, they need, that's their commission too, so there has to be sufficient, availability for them to continue to make money, if you like. So what I hope doesn't happen, but it might happen, is that there's a big log jam where everyone's, there's business, but there's nowhere to place it, kind of thing. So, but that's a better scenario than no business and lots of availability. It's like, what problem would you rather have?
We'll be where we'll be. I think that's the thing, isn't it? And as long, like you say, as long as we're active and keep the conversation going, that's what's important. So,
and I think the industry is really together.
Can I just interrupt, ladies? Joe, can you just look at your mic, because I think your mic's just slipped. We can't catch everything you're saying. That's okay. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, ladies.
No, that's fine. So Emma, in your opinion, also, sorry, how can people get involved with the CHS group? What ways can they do that?
I think if for event buyer perspective, if you want to come, is, and not just for our event, I really want to champion that when we can get back to doing exhibitions, that the industry comes out for us. So we've got Meeting Show moving their dates, we've got other events in Scotland, Event It, and we've got Venues Events Live. If you look at all those events, is we're all kind of in a 6 to 8 week period, but if everybody just kind of said, yeah, I'm going to go to one thing, there's enough of us in the industry that will make those events a success. And well, I'm also, I don't know, but I'm wondering if the hotels that you might meet will be very different as other venues change strategy in how they, people who've never done events before might want to do them. People who always do them might say, no, I'm going to try more, different routes to market. So I would say, just look at the events and come to them, or engage in other ways. I'm having plans at the moment to make Birmingham a hybrid event. So even if people don't want to, they don't want to come to a show physically, they're in the vulnerable category, so aren't safe to come. Certainly, if hopefully they're not displaying symptoms and they can't come. So it's kind of how can people engage with the shows? There'll be a lot more coming from us in the coming months around saying that you can engage in our shows, and also some smaller online events that we're working on. You don't actually have to leave home. And there'll be, like I say, when I speak to people, there's some people saying, absolutely not, I will be there. I'm ready to kind of get out there and see the world again. And other people going, no, that's great, I can still engage remotely.
It's great to be able to do both, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I could talk to you for hours, Emma, but I'm going to hand over to Karen. So I'm sure she's got lots of questions for you.
I've got a few questions for you, Emma. One we've kind of covered already, and a question's come up saying, do you think that events and exhibitions will return as we know them, or do you think there will be a shift in how we communicate?
Well, I guess A, I'm forever the optimist, so I'm going to say the return. B, this is my business, so I'm going to do all I can to make sure they return to how they were. Yeah. And one, I think we're all sort of, in business, we all have our different strengths, and I'm great at problem solving, and in a crisis, kind of what do we do? How do we think differently? Right? I'm not, I wouldn't say a very good futurist. I'd love to be one of these people that can, not predict the future, but say what's going to happen. And I think my team would wish that I would, because the crisis has to happen before I come up with a solution kind of thing. So they're always running at 100 miles an hour to keep up with me. But I think it will change in that some people will, I certainly think more things will go hybrid. But this has been the case for years. I'm speaking to people now who've been speaking about hybrid events. But I personally don't believe that they will replace physical events. I think they might be different. If you look at things like trade associations who have to meet for certainly a period of time, they may not do so many thousand people in one country. They may do all at the same time their own individual events in their own country, so there's that lack of no need to travel so much. Things like that might stick, but I do think that as humans we want to connect, and I don't think that even now people are getting that Zoom fatigue, and I've got to have some important meetings in the next few weeks, and I'm kind of thinking I don't want to have them on Zoom. I want to be in a room with them, building rapport, and taking an idea forward. And I know even from our own team, we're coming up with some ideas, and just brainstorming over Zoom. It's not as easy, because the whole energy you get when you're in a room, everyone's shouting things out, and the scribe is trying to get everything on. You just can't do that when only one person can speak at a time, and etc. etc. So I would, I would still think that. So I'm going to be honest. I was distracted there. JD, I'm presuming that is Janet Denning.
Yeah, of course it is.
She was. She would never have met Simon Rivers. She is definitely Simon Rivers' biggest fan, and it's true. She would 100%. Never have met him had she not got herself sat in that front seat of CHS Leeds last year, ready to pounce with her camera to take a photo of him. She was amazing. I loved that woman. But yeah, that whole thing. We bring in, speakers, people who you want to be inspired by or learn from or what have you. So I think you just don't get that. And what I am inspired by is a couple of TV programs that have been run on Zoom, the Ranganation one, and also the footballer father and son program. Oh, his name just escaped me, somebody might know, Jamie Redknapp.
Okay.
And his father, they're doing a great programme on Zoom, and that kind of inspires me that I think this will develop. We'll all get better at presenting something like this. The technology will become more available to us and what have you. But again, like Jan said, you can't beat running down a corridor chasing Sam and Rimmer.
I mean that's got to be Jan's highlight, really. You know, that's we see photos frequently on Facebook popping up of
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, she wouldn't have had the opportunity if the event hadn't been face to face.
Our first celebrity chef that we had at CHS Leeds a number of years ago was James Martin. And I remember at the end of the day, he said goodbye to me and gave me a kiss on the cheek. And I was like, nobody saw it. I was like, James Martin just kissed me and nobody saw. And I was devastated.
Do it again.
Exactly. I was like, make sure everyone's like, and it was kind of, me drooling over James Martin kind of thing. So it's, and again, blow me a kiss on Zoom. I don't feel it.
No, it's not the same, is it? Well, funny, like as a team, we've been chatting about virtual events, and we were chatting to a company last week, and they were saying, you can build your own avatar, and you can go into a meeting room, and you can actually have a private meeting with somebody, so you can see their avatar and have a chat. And we're like, that's great, and it's wonderful, and that's brilliant, you can do that. But people, like especially like in the event world, we're all very sociable and we're very tactile, and we just want to see you. So actually, I want to meet your avatar, that's great, but then the next thing I want to do is I want to go and have a coffee with you, because that's how we're all going to get on. So it was really interesting, all their ideas about the virtual world and what events are going to look like in the future. But I think you're right, it's still going to be a case of there's going to be a place for it, but it can't fully replace actually us all sitting together and getting stuff done.
I think it will always, I think someone said to me once that it will always perhaps like assist the physical world, but it won't actually replace it. It will run alongside it. And some people, and we're all different. Some people go, absolutely, I love staying at home. Love, I'm quite happy meeting people on Zoom. It suits their own personal requirements, their own personalities. Other people just want to get out and give everyone a hug. That's going to be our hardest challenge. Kind of.
That's me, first of all.
But kind of like I'll be running down the corridors yelling, "Don't touch each other!" Kind of get back.
I've just got a couple more questions for you. One of them is about, I suppose it's a bit hypothetical in the situation that we're in now. Do you think you would are you planning to do CHS internationally, like virtually, or really going abroad, or what are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting. We have plans to expand the company internationally, and we launched Birmingham, which is no mean feat to actually launch a new show. So once I did that, I thought, we'll put international sort of back a year because we can sort of burn out. And when we did, as soon as COVID-19 hit, I worked on a really big business continuity plan, which was kind of in 3 phases of what we need to do now in terms of keeping the business going and make sure it survives, what we need to plan ahead in terms of events, like things like Birmingham going hybrid and things like that. Then phase 3 is what opportunity is is there in here for us. And we started to ask ourselves a series of sort of what if questions. So one question was, what if the world does not take to Zoom? What if we all just said, no, we're all just going to hibernate and not do this? So I'm grateful that the world hasn't come to an end from that perspective. But then the other question was, what if it does really take to Zoom and it all does really take off? That means that we can become international overnight, because we haven't got to build, we haven't got to place salespeople in countries. We haven't got to travel and get so many hundred people to one place. So it opens up more opportunities for us. So absolutely, I think the future, and I still don't think we know enough. I still think we need to come out of lockdown and maybe say, there might be people saying, no, Emma, get real, this is where we're going, get on board kind of thing. But I like to have a bit more certainty, if you like, in what we're doing. And also, I believe we've got a good brand that people do love coming to our events. And our biggest challenge now is not really, I think we have to go hybrid for the next 12 to 18 months maybe. And if that provides an opportunity, that's great. But for us, our biggest challenge is, how do we give people at home the CHS experience? because if you think what I said before about we come from a conference organising perspective, and we've got a few little ideas about how to make people feel that they're part of it. Our strapline for the 2 shows is be a part of it. It's like, well, how we don't want to leave people behind if they're at home not being a part of it. So it's not just a case of doing an event that's hybrid and thinking about the technology. It's about the engagement and how we bring people in.
So I've just got a couple more for you.
That's okay.
So how do you as a team kind of look at CHS and make it different every year and think, right, what can we do to keep it all on brand and keep it that experience? But because it's an annual show, how do you make it feel different every year?
I don't know if we do sometimes, so maybe it's kind of, I think it evolves more than anything. I think, and because it's had 3 distinct periods, the first 3 years at the Royal Armouries, 3 years at Leeds United, and now 4 years at First Direct Arena in Leeds, each venue move has kind of given us I now look back at the first photos of the event and just cringe, because I think we turned over something like £30,000 in year 1. So, your branding isn't that great when you're only turning over £30,000. It's like you're on vinyl stuck on a wall somewhere to say where you are. So I think the biggest shift was when we moved to First Direct Arena, with it being a music venue, and we went down the CHS Rocks. It's a marketing campaign as opposed to, but that whole, do you rock the events world? Are you a rock star event planner? It was just that whole, and when we started planning that, the ideas were wild. We had to say, no, this is actually a campaign. It's not a music event. It's not, to make sure it doesn't that becomes, it doesn't confuse the market. And I think, Julie and the marketing team did a really good job of getting that messaging across and using it and making people feel like a rock star event planner that we all are. And but again, like, time moves on and you have to grow up a little bit also. So for the first time this show introduced appointment making, so that I just heard it start to pour down outside. Sorry for getting distracted by that. So again, as time goes on, we just evolve it, I think, a little bit, and the event does get bigger every year. So in that respect, it's kind of it's bringing in new people. So every time you're not meeting the same old people every time, but it's got that lovely, group of loyal fans that come every year and new people who are brought into it. So it's got that, I don't think we don't necessarily sit there and think about how we change it every year. It's just more what can we do. Evolving it every year. So my last question is kind of looking at the younger generation, and so the younglings, so younger than us, like the ones in their 20s, and they're very much the digital generation. We use Instagram and Facebook, but that's just second nature to them. That's kind of how they communicate and how they get on with people. Do you think we could learn from them a lot more about how we're putting events together, how we're marketing them? Do you think that's kind of where we should be looking for, I was, and I must admit, I'm not one of those, young people who kind of always jump on. So we had one of my team the day saying, can we do a TikTok thing? I was like, no, I'm not doing TikTok. But then I'll check, it's a new, that's how you find customers. Like, how would you find, I only get the advert for TikTok. I don't know how to find customers on TikTok. No. And I don't think that our current customers are actually on. They might be on TikTok, but not there from a business perspective. Yeah, they might be there for the social things. And I remember when I was even 10 years ago, sort of saying to, my own parents, like, you've got to get on Facebook kind of thing, or get an iPad, you're going to get left behind. And now I'm getting left behind thinking, actually, it's not as easy as it. So absolutely. And I think, we've got a new marketing manager, which has been with us a good few months now, and she might be listening, so I will just give her a little big up, in that she gets all that, and it just goes over my head. So I keep seeing things at the moment, even just today, a couple of days ago, I was like, seen this, what do you think? She's like, I'll do the demo and get back to you. Like, I don't think it's going to do everything that, because I just don't understand. So you've got to bring in those people and trust them that they do know what they're doing. And I think that's probably one thing that I'm very good at is letting people do their jobs. I don't bring people in and then do the job for them. If you've got an expert in a field, let them be that expert. Let them, do what they need to do. And the whole CHS Rocks campaign would never have come from me. It would, I would never in a million years have had that idea. We had to be, and the idea was so wild, we had to bring somebody in to help us create a campaign. Like I said, but I think, yeah, absolutely. I think that's where things will change. That, like I say, I'm not the futurist. You've got to go to the kids and ask them. And my job is to let those people take the business on and evolve it, not to try and keep it as it was all the time.
But I think a lot of us are the same as you, that we've done things a certain way, and then now this is an opportunity for us to go, oh look, there's all these new tools that we can use, and what is this TikTok thing, and why is everybody
maybe all the younger ones saying that, laugh, take a listen to us, that they're all, well, we do something fresh, guys.
I had to ask my niece what it was. I went, why do I need to do this in my life? And she said, well, it's just fun. I was like, okay, like I still don't get it, to be honest, but I'm probably going to get an account and I'm probably going to have a play on it, definitely. But I think we all need help from kind of that younger generation can kind of bring new ideas and new ways of thinking to help us evolve in the events industry, which is what we're saying.
Yeah, as I said, I'm one of these people who's not going to try and understand it. I'm going to go, yeah, that's great. I trust you. Go for it.
Oh, well, Emma, that's all the questions that we've got. But no, thank you very much for answering all those questions. It's been great to hear your answers. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you for the opportunity. It's lovely to see you all. Thank you.
Such a great, insightful chat, Emma. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Oh, no worries.
To you.
My
And
pleasure.
yeah, it's great to hear everything that you've got coming up. It's all exciting, and it's stuff to look forward to, isn't it? And that's what we need at the moment, I think. Is
a bit of optimism.
Yeah, definitely. Plenty of optimism. So before we go, just to let everyone know what's coming up next. So next week we've got 2 live chats. The first will be with Lucy Brazier. For those of you that don't know her, she's CEO of March and Publishing, and they run Executive Secretary Magazine, and we'll be talking about running an event as a project. And then on the 3rd of June, we'll be speaking to Samantha Salisbury about her 5 steps to a successful events career. So if you miss any of these chats, we will be running them through live Facebook, and obviously you can sign up to them via Eventbrite. So thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks again, Emma. And
oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll blow you all a kiss now. It's not the real thing.